Everyone in the city knew Elias Crow by reputation, not by voice. He was the deaf millionaire who owned half the waterfront, glass towers, hotels, restaurants that glittered at night like promises. Business magazines called him visionary. Society columns called him reclusive. No one ever mentioned the silence that followed him everywhere, thick and constant, like a second shadow. Every Thursday at exactly 7:15 p.m., Elias dined at Le Jardin. Same table, same seat, same view of the river sliding past the windows. The staff knew the routine so well it had become ritual. A leather-bound notebook placed neatly to his left. A fountain pen aligned just so. The waiter would greet him with a nod and a written card listing the specials. Elias would smile politely, make his selection, and the world would move on without him. He always ate alone, not because he wanted to, but because alone was easier. People spoke too fast. Mouths blurred. Patience ran thin. Silence, at least, never misunderstood him. After closing time, when the chandeliers dimmed and the last guests left, Rosa arrived. She was small, tired, and invisible in the way only cleaning staff could be. Her shoes squeaked softly against the marble as she pushed her cart through the dining room. Strapped to her chest was her baby, bundled in a worn blue carrier, his head resting against her heart. The manager disliked it. Customers weren't supposed to see babies where wine cost more than rent. But Rosa worked hard, and she worked quietly, and sometimes rules bent for people who had no other choice. Elias noticed them one evening, not because Rosa was loud, but because the baby wasn't. The child stared at him. Not the unfocused gaze of an infant, but something intent, curious, as if studying him. Elias shifted uncomfortably, returning his attention to his notebook. People stared often. It came with wealth, with difference. He had learned to ignore it. Rosa always cleaned his section last. She kept her eyes lowered, her movements quick and apologetic, whispering soft words to her baby in Spanish as she worked. Then, on one quiet Thursday, something went wrong. A buckle slipped. The baby slid free from the carrier and landed softly on the rug beside Elias's table. Time froze. Rosa gasped, lunging forward, but before she could reach him, the baby sat up and lifted his hands. Small fingers moved with surprising purpose, not flailing, not playing. They formed a word. Elias's breath caught. The baby was signing, and the silence for the first time in years felt loud. If you want, I can expand part 2 even more, add a stronger cliffhanger, or make the tone more emotional or more dramatic next. For a moment, Elias Crow could not move. The restaurant was silent in the way only empty spaces could be. No music. No chatter, just the faint hum of refrigeration and the soft glow of wall sconces. Yet to Elias, the room felt suddenly crowded, filled with something he hadn't felt in years. Recognition. The baby's hands moved again. Slower this time, as if concentrating. Hello? Elias's fountain pen slipped from his fingers and rolled across the floor. He didn't notice. His eyes were locked on the child, wide and unblinking. His heart pounded so loudly he wondered absurdly if everyone else could hear it. He rose from his chair, the legs scraping sharply against the marble. Rosa froze mid-step, her face drained of color. "I'm so sorry," she said quickly, her words tumbling over each other. "I didn't mean he's just a baby. I'll take him and go—" Elias lifted his hand. The gesture was calm, steady, a universal pause. Rosa stopped. Slowly, Elias knelt on the floor in front of the child. His movements were careful, reverent, as if approaching something sacred. He signed back, his hands stiff at first, then smoother as memory took over. "Hello, what is your name?" The baby blinked. Then his mouth curved into a wide, delighted smile. His fingers wobbled, corrected themselves, and signed again. "Luca." Rosa covered her mouth. "My mama was deaf," she whispered. She taught him signs while she watched him. I thought he was just playing." Elias shook his head gently, a soundless laugh escaping his chest. Tears blurred his vision. He had negotiated billion-dollar deals without blinking. Yet here he was, undone by a child on a restaurant floor. That night, Elias never returned to his seat. He sat cross-legged on the rug, signing simple stories about rivers, about stars, about a lonely man who ate dinner by himself every Thursday. Luca responded with clumsy enthusiasm, tiny hands eager to keep up. Rosa watched, unsure whether to cry or smile, as the richest man in the room became the humblest. In the weeks that followed, Thursday dinners changed. A second chair appeared. Then toys. Rosa was offered a day position after Elias learned she was studying accounting at night. She cried when he signed the offer. Years later, when reporters asked, Elias Crow, what finally taught him that silence was not loneliness, he smiled and signed. Someone listened with their hands first.